everyone, welcome back to Cute Nerdy DIY. Today we're doing another squishy makeover, and today we're going to be changing this little husky into Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. So I used one of these soft and slow squishies that you can get in most shops in the UK. Now it says mega squishy, but it's not very big at all, so I think that probably just means because it's quite slow rising. But to be honest, compared to some of the other makeovers I've done, this squishy is actually already in quite good condition. Now the reason I decided to make it over was because I really wanted to do Toothless, as How to Train Your Dragon is one of my favourite films. So the first step to do this makeover is to sand your squishy. Now I noticed a lot of you in the comments were mentioning this to me, and I also had seen Moriah Elizabeth do this in her videos, so I thought I might as well try it to see how well it works. I don't know if it worked any better than not doing it, but maybe it made the paint stick a bit better. So the next step was to kind of cut into my squishy. Now obviously Toothless has got quite a few little ears, and I don't really know what it is, but he just kind of has these little ears that kind of stick up and stuff like that. So the next step was to cut these out of the squishy. I thought cutting them out of the shapes that were already there actually would work better than kind of gluing them on myself with other foam, because then at least it's the same type of material. But yes, this was the first time I have actually cut into my squishy, so I was quite nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but it actually worked out quite well, so I am glad I did that. The next step is to cut the little claws out. And then it's time to paint. As always, I'm using my mixture of PVA glue, acrylic paint and shaving foam, and this time I mixed together white, blue and black paint. Now I added the blue in because I thought that there's a little shimmer to Toothless, so I didn't want it to be exactly black, so I thought I'd add that in, and it kind of gives a very faint, like dark blue midnighty tone to it. So I mixed that all together, added a bit more blue in because it wasn't the right colour, and then I used my lollipop stick or popsicle stick, whatever you want to call it, and I started to spread the paint on. So it's important to make sure you do this in a really thick layer. If there's any air bubbles that appear whilst you're painting it, then just go back over with more paint. Make sure to get the bits that you cut and do those really well, because there's obviously going to be air bubbles there now that weren't there before, so you need to cover those up. And once that's done, you can hang it to dry. So when it comes to drying my squishy makeovers, I kind of do different things depending on the shape of the squishy and stuff like that. But for this one, I used one of my little clasp things that I have for my pin board, and I basically pinned it, I think I actually pinned it on the bottom in the end, but yeah, and I hung that upside down to dry. After this, I added another layer, and as you can see, it's actually looking quite a lot like Toothless. So I decided to put some texture on it in a sense, and I got a sponge, and with the mixture I already had, I added some silvery metallic paint and just decided to kind of dab little bits of paint over it to show like texture and to get the light to hit it in different ways. Once that had dried, I then got my avocado squishy pencil topper pencil, and I started to draw very lightly the eyes that I needed to paint on. Next, I made a yellow paint mixture and I used my paintbrush to paint on the eyes. So it is actually really important to use a paintbrush for this bit because you need to be as neat as possible. So I really wouldn't recommend using a popsicle stick to do this part with. Now remember to take your time when you're doing a design like this because you don't want to mess up. But if you do mess up, it's a good idea to keep some of the black paint from before so that you can just paint over it if you make any mistakes. So once the yellow is in quite a thick layer on the bottom, I then made a green mixture and I started to go around the outsides. So if you look at a photo of Toothless, which I will show you here, you can see that his eyes are kind of yellow on the inside and green on the outside. So that's kind of the effect that I was trying to go for. And then it was basically a case of blending both the colours in. I did go back over with the yellow just to make the yellow brighter again because the green had gone quite a lot. And then when that had dried, I had to do the most nerve-wracking part of the whole thing. I was honestly so scared to do this because I knew if I messed any of this up that I'd have to do the eyes all over again. So basically I'm just drawing the iris on. And I did this in paint. Normally I do use my Sharpie, but I did actually use paint this time and I was taking so long to do this because I really didn't want to mess it up. And as you see, I'm doing this freehand, so yeah, if you don't have a steady hand, it might be a good idea to draw it out first, and to be honest, I really wish I did. It would have made life a lot easier. So whilst this was drying, it was kind of a case of drawing other details on. So as you can see here, I'm just drawing the little like spikes that go down his head. Now I didn't cut off the little lumpy bit on here because there's already spikes on the top of his head, so I thought that they'd fit in quite well and it didn't need to necessarily go, and it actually kind of helps in the illusion of the spikes sticking up, so that worked fine. And then as you can see, all I did now was I added these little silver highlights to like the nose, and then I also did the same around the eyes. And basically all that this does is give kind of a 3D look to the 2D drawn on bits. So as you can see, he's all finished, and as I said, I am literally over the moon with this. This is by far my favourite one I've done because, as I said, I absolutely adore Toothless. And it still squishes really well. I know a lot of people think that like this paint mixture or acrylic paint will crack, but to be honest, I've not had that much experience with it cracking. So it's completely up to you what type of paint you use, but this works well for me. But yeah. So my giveaway winner for my 500 subscribers is Liza Daniels with this comment because it really made me laugh. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'm so grateful for all the support. If you like what you see, remember to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.